got that whole outside patio, so you're gonna be inside and outside. And there's a kitchen for caterers. Yeah. Have you seen it? Oh my gosh. So everybody's in there doing the finishing the floors and tickets. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is inside the floor, and we just put the white, and then they're polishing the floor and that. Yeah. So one garden. Even my mother said it was really nice. And then I had the other time. My hospital and things to that.
Mr. Mayor, it's now 5 p.m. Are you ready to begin the meeting?
We are ready to begin.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. With that confirmation of recording, good evening to all, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Petaluma City Council and Petaluma Community Developer Successor Agency for Monday. And that's Monday, June 15th. And may we have our roll call vote, please?
Barnacle?
Present.
Cater Thompson?
Present.
DeCarly?
Here.
Now?
Here.
Quint?
Here.
Shribs?
Here.
McDonald?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And I should note at this time that Councilmember Cater Thompson is joining us remotely and following all Brown Act rules to do so. Tonight's closed session, I'm going to defer to our city attorney to announce the agenda of the closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council will have a conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation in closed session. That regards initiation of litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D, Paragraph 1, regarding, Paragraph 4, regarding one potential case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with items like this, we have public comment. I'll defer to the clerk now to announce our public comment.
We've received no public comments prior to the closed session. Members of the public attending in person should bring their speaker cards to the clerk's desk if they have not already done so. Speakers are reminded to be respectful in their comments.
And not seeing anyone in chambers nor anyone moving with cards towards the clerk, we will close public comment. And now we will adjourn to our closed session and return into the room at the completion of the business or at 6 p.m., whichever comes later. Thank you.
Kids and I used to call that frisma.
You were the gal.
Mr. Mayor, it's now 6:07. Are you ready to begin the regular session?
I believe we're continuing our regular session, flowing right into it from our closed session. So good evening and welcome to all. And this is our regularly scheduled meeting, the Petaluma City Council and the Petaluma Community Development Successor Agency for Monday, June 15th. And as always, if you wish to provide a comment on tonight's agenda, please fill out a speaker card. They're in the back of the room. Our clerk is here in the front of the room. We have concurrent translation services available for our meetings. And to do that, there is a link on your agenda, or there's a QR code in the back of the room. And with that, I'd like to have our roll call for the evening.
Barnacle,
Present.
Cater Thompson,
Here.
DeCarly,
Here.
Now,
Here.
Quint,
Here.
Schritz, McDonald.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thanks, and I'll note that our councilwoman, Cater Thompson, is joining us remotely through the power of the internet, and all in conformance with Brown Act requirements. So let's have our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And a moment of silence, please. From time to time, the city uses this moment to honor a Petaluman who was recently passed and was a significant contributor to the city. And tonight, we have occasion to remember just one such person, John Volpe. So John was born in Petaluma in 1936. He's just passed away recently, June 11th, at the age of 90. And he was proud descendants of Northern Italian heritage. The Volpe family has long been woven into the fabric of our city. In 1925, his parents purchased the Volpe Grocery and Bar at 124 Washington, now known as Volpe's Restaurant and Bar, which recently celebrated their 100th anniversary. For generations of Petalumans, John was much more than a businessman, dairyman, and restaurateur. Alongside his sister Sylvia, they brought joy to countless audiences through music, entertaining guests in the historic back bar of Volpe's, which you should investigate for the backstory of, and a gathering place with roots reaching all the way back into the Prohibition era. And John was also a lifelong local dairyman and devoted steward of the city. Some may not know this, but he served as a boxing coach at Petaluma Boys and Girls Club, and he earned black belts in both Taekwondo and Karate, accomplishments for which he was particularly proud. Through his mentorship, discipline, and dedication, he positively influenced many young people in our community. While John's accomplishments were many, those who know him best will remember him for his kindness, his love of family, his pride in Petaluma, and the unmistakable sound of his accordion. As much as he loved family, friends, and he often joked that the accordion was his other great love in his life. On behalf of the city of Petaluma, we extend our heartfelt condolences to Mary Lee, the entire Volpe family, and those who knew and loved John. So this meeting tonight will be adjourned in memory of John Volpe. Thank you. Now, at this point, I look at the agenda, and then I look up and down the dais and see if our agenda has any questions, and seeing no one wishing to modify the agenda, we'll adopt it as it's written on what you see. And that moves us to a report out of our recent closed session. And so I'd like to invite our city attorney to comment on tonight's closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is no action to report tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. That is the way with some closed sessions. But we do have a proclamation tonight. One of the honors of the city is to read proclamation for those contributing today in our city. The proclamation is for Juneteenth, and I'd like to invite Faith Ross and friends from Petaluma Blacks for Community Development to the podium while we read. And I do just want to note that Juneteenth, this is on tonight's agenda a little further down. It will be adopted as a city holiday in contract with all our labor unions in this agenda tonight. So going forth, there will be Juneteenth official holiday in Petaluma. So Juneteenth, June 19th, 2026, whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st of 1863, declaring slaves in the Confederate territories free and paving the way for passing the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word of the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed sometime being 2.5 years, to June 19th, 1865, before reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwest United States. And whereas Emancipation Day observances are held on different days in different states throughout the South and Southwest and in other parts of the nation. And whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called June 19th has a special meaning and is called Juneteenth, combining the words of June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. Whereas Juneteenth marks the country's second Independence Day, and its historical legacy shows the value of never giving up hope in uncertain times. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kevin McDonald, Mayor of the City of Petaluma, along with the members of the Petaluma City Council, do hereby proclaim June 19, 2026 as Juneteenth in the City of Petaluma, and urge all residents to become more aware of the significance this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation and our city. Thank you.
Is this on? Is it on? It's on. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, council members, city staff, community leaders, and friends. On behalf of Petaluma Blacks for Community Development, I am deeply honored to accept this proclamation recognizing Juneteenth. Juneteenth is more than just a celebration of freedom. It is a reminder that freedom delayed is freedom denied, and that pursuit of equity, justice, and opportunity continues today. It is a time to reflect on the resilience, strength, and contributions of Black Americans who helped build this country despite tremendous obstacles. Juneteenth commemorates June 19, 1865, when the enslaved African Americans in Texas learned they had been freed by the Emancipation Proclamation signed by the president in 1863. So that was a little time in there. We are also celebrating community. Mrs. Martell Perry, a resident of Santa Rosa who grew up in Texas, started the tradition of having a picnic to celebrate Juneteenth in 1954 at her home at 1335 Wright Road in Santa Rosa. She brought this tradition to Santa Rosa, and it has continued until this day. Here in Petaluma, we don't have a separate celebration, but a shared one within Sonoma County. I got to know Mrs. Perry. She was one of my customers when I was the manager of the World Savings in Santa Rosa. And I also got to go to her house to a couple of the picnics there when her children had started to do it, because they kept it up after she passed away. The proclamation is not only a recognition of Juneteenth, it is also a reminder of our collective responsibility to ensure that the idea of freedom and opportunity are available to everyone. We are grateful for the partnership, the friendship, and support that makes this work of Petaluma Blacks possible. 2026 makes the 100th anniversary of celebrating Black history. That makes me so happy. We at PBCD are committed to sharing the stories, experiences, and contributions of Black people in Sonoma County and beyond, because understanding our history helps us create a stronger future. Thank you, City of Petaluma, for this recognition and for helping keep the spirit of Juneteenth alive. May we continue working together to build a community where freedom, equity, and belonging are not just ideas, but realities for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to general public comment. During general public comment, the public's invited to make comment on items in the public interest that are within the City Council's subject matter jurisdiction and that are not listed as a current item. So public comments are limited up to 3 minutes in time, and depending on the number of persons wishing to address the council, time may be allocated in equal shares, totaling no more than 20 minutes. If we have more than 20 speakers, we will additional comments will be heard after the last business item on the agenda. And with that, I'd like to ask our clerk if we've received any general public comment.
We have received 6 general public comments ahead of the meeting, and those have been posted to the agenda packet online. At this time, I will start a 30-second clock for general public comment. During these 30 seconds, members of the public should bring their speaker cards to the clerk's desk if you have not done so already. Speaker cards received after this time may not be accommodated.
We have 2 cards this evening. Our first speaker will be Jennifer Boyle, to be followed by Tim Porteous.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City staff. The Bad Actor Mobile Home Large Investment Group owners in Petaluma and throughout our state continue to ignore and flaunt violations of both local ordinances and senior park overlay zoning and MRL laws. While frivolous lawsuits and arbitrations are continuously aimed at both the city and the mobile park residents in Capri, Little Woods, and Youngstown, the outcomes thus far have culminated in 6 arbitrations with 0 awards to park owners, 3 federal lawsuits against the city dismissed, a senior park overlay lawsuit dismissed in part, another arbitration just filed less than 1 year after the last, and 1 arbitration with award of 13% of the ask of $923 and attorney fees overturned on appeal. Bleed residents and cities into submission is the goal. The rent stabilization ordinance of our city and MRL law does not allow ground rent in a mobile park to be raised upon sale unless there was an eviction or the removal of an old mobile home and a new mobile home installed. Realtors, however, are given increased ground rents even though they are aware of what the current ground rent is. When realtors do their due diligence and confirm with the city the ground rent, their offers are not accepted at the last minute, or in some cases, realtors for sellers state that there are buyers willing to pay the unlawful amount. The increased ground rent is unlawful. However, nothing changes the rent stabilization ordinance of the MRL. This is clear-cut violations and unlawful business practices. It cannot be clearer. Youngstown management are demanding signed forms which would release their liability in the pool area and allowing 14-year-old children and all age rules for a senior park before any resident can get a key to the pool, an amenity every resident already pays for. Refusal by the resident to sign these forms denies residents a key to the newly keyed pool, and likely last Thursday.
Thank you. Tim Porteous.
Refusal by the resident to sign these forms denies the residents a key to the newly keyed pool, and like last Thursday on a 97-degree day, denies access to use of a pool amenity we all pay for. This is an unlawful Youngstown. This is not an all-age park, and this reduction of service is an abuse of power, especially to senior citizens trying to stay cool with significant health issues. In Capri, multiple residents' cars in the park towing in the park owner towing campaign were lifted for tow unwarranted and had to pay immediately the tow fee for the tow company to put down the car. On a recent Friday night, this happened on 3 different vehicles in Capri. It's a racket used to get back at residents who will not agree to talk with owners without giving up their rights, or won't give in to the gouging that they're intending on them. These bad actor park owners are violating MRL law. Business practices. Now, what if this business was another business somewhere here in the city? What would you guys do? Would you do nothing? Really? Pick another business. Pick the abuse. I'll tell you this, we've given this to you. You have this. You have access to this. But this has really gotten to me. We have to do something. We look to you because we don't have much that we can do alone. But any other business, treat this like the business it is. They don't get to run around and abuse us. Is that right? I can't get into the pool. I've lived here for nearly 7 years. I've paid all of my rent every time. But I can't even go to my own pool. What? Let's change the contract. How about I get to change the contract and I'll start paying $100 a month for rent? What's going on over here? How does this work? How is that equal with any other business here in town? You can't abuse your employees. You can't abuse the people that come into your stores. That's what they're doing to us. Please, there must be a significant way to stop this. They're abusing you. Listen to the first arbitration when Daniel Weinstein said the reason he came to Petaluma is because we don't protect our elderly. It's there. Look at it. Feel it. Because that's what he's doing. That's what he's done. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. With no further cards, that closes general public comment for the evening. I'll move it back up to the dais for council comment, and I'll start off to my left with Councilmember Shribs tonight.
The only thing I can add at this point, I did complete a course in housing from given over by the Abundance Network, so I got that done last Friday. So it's just I learned a lot, but it's still a hugely complex issue, so just raises lots of questions. But I learned that there's lots of questions out there. Thanks.
Councilmember Quint.
No report out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Now.
I too have no report, but I do want to say, meet me at the fair. It starts on Thursday, and it's full of so much local history on agriculture in Petaluma, present day, past, and into the future. And so many local businesses are represented. And of course, our 4-H and FFA kids and our local students in the schools. I have to do a shout out to city staff. And to our contractors, they have done an awesome job. It is looking amazing. I was brought to tears by how wonderful our fairgrounds looks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Barnacle.
No report.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
No liaison reports, but I do want to say that the airport fly-in bash was very successful. They had a great turnout. It's been getting better every year. So that's a very popular thing to do, and they do, once a month, they do their display days, if you're interested in that or have kids. And then I do want to say also, last night I attended the neon chick lighting, which was a very cool thing, put together by a lot of community members. There were a ton of people involved in that, and a couple hundred people, I think, attended last night to watch it get lit, and really an awesome thing to see an old piece of our history restored and back in service.
Thank you very much. Kind of a tie-in there, we all attended mayors and council meeting this week, and Petaluma hosted at what we call the Seed Bank, or the old bank at the corner of Washington and Petaluma Boulevard, all of the above now. So a big shout out to them for being able to host a group like this. And that is historic reuse, and it's really cool to see the two going together. But the topic of the evening, one was PG&E and what all they're doing in the world of providing energy and energy reliability to the area. And there were a few questions about Potter Valley and PG&E's decommissioning of a dam there. So we had a great conversation with PG&E also regarding fires, fire prevention, undergrounding of wiring. And the main event, though, for the council members was to learn more about the county's Measure O, mental health measure, and what's going on now with loss of federal funding and loss of state funding for it. And two main takeaways. I am very pleased by how much money that Measure O tax bringing back into Petaluma, helping with our SAFE team, helping with COTS, and helping with others, and direct money back to the city. But also, it's just impressive what mental health is in the county, the big facilities that we don't have any locally, that the county has to stand up for serious mental health issues. So it's good that we're all aware of what roles each of our part of government does. Also attended the Blue Zone Steering Committee. They're coming up on their 3-year, their certification, where they've succeeded at the task of bringing Blue Zones to Petaluma and changing lives. But the question remains, what's next? And of course, how to fund what's next. And the highlight, I think, as Councilmember Now mentioned, the fair is coming up. And right now, Councilmember Now looks a little different. I saw her a couple hours ago with gloves and boots on. She's personally making sure the fair does, as does every city employee. It's really amazing to see who's out there. So please come by the fair, June 18th, June 21. Now over to the city manager.
And no report for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And
what about Janice?
And okay. We have a member logging in a little box screen, and I overlooked you. I apologize. Councilmember Cater Thompson, your report.
I have no report. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
I apologize anyways. Moving on to our consent calendar. We have here on the consent calendar some 12 items tonight. And I'd like to ask if the council has any question of any of the items. Councilmember Now.
The very first consent item, the minutes of the City Council regular meeting of June 8th, I was not present, so should I not vote?
And I believe our City Attorney will weigh in on this.
Yes, that's not a very good answer, because what does that tell you?
Should I recuse?
No,
It's a
you don't need to
consent.
recuse.
Okay.
Thanks. Because I presume you were able to see the agenda, et cetera.
I was, and I
Yep.
watched the video. But,
So you're fine to vote. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I have a question about item 7, and if anybody from maybe Public Works wants to talk about that. It's replacing a 600-gallon diesel tank for a generator, but the tank itself is going to cost $41,000. So I've never seen a tank of that size, no matter the material, cost so much money.
Good evening. Steve Worrell, Deputy Director of Water Resources and Utilities. It was the same spec as the original tank in place. It's a below-ground tank with secondary containment. So that's kind of what they cost is the best answer I can give you.
It is an underground tank?
It is, yeah.
Okay. I thought it was attached to the generator unit.
Also correct. It's
okay. Sits on
yeah.
top.
It's partially buried, is my understanding. Yeah.
And the old one was beyond repair.
The old one had leaked in the secondary containment, so the primary wall failed, and there was fuel in the secondary containment, so there's no repair to that. It's replaced at that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and there was no cheaper alternative?
No, that's kind of that's the typical price we saw. I know informally we looked at other options, and even though this tank came from Texas, it was cheaper than finding anything else that would meet the requirements.
Okay.
I think we all get sticker shock on a lot of things, and that does seem like a big number for 600 gallons. Thank you for the report.
Well, it does, but I've seen much larger tanks cost about a quarter of that. So to me, it's like, even if you're custom building it, I can't see it costing that much.
Thank you. So with no other questions, I'll pass it to the clerk for general public or for public comment on the consent calendar.
We have received no public comments for the consent calendar ahead of the meeting. At this time, I'll start the 30-second clock for public comment. During these 30 seconds, members of the public wishing to speak should bring their speaker cards to the clerk's desk if they have not done so already. Speaker cards received after this time may not be accommodated.
And we have no cards? No cards. And seeing no one moving towards to add a card, then we will close public comment for the evening on the consent calendar and bring it back up to the council for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar 1 through 12.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion by Now and a second by Shribs.
I think I may pull item 7 if you want to vote on the rest of the calendar.
Do you want me to amend it to 1 through 6 and 8 through 12?
Yeah, 1 through 12 less 7.
And then we'll do 7 separate.
Thank you. And that's an amended motion, so I'll ask for an amended second.
An amended second, yes.
So we still have motion from Now with second from Shribs for 1 through 6, 8 through 12. And that's a roll call vote, please.
Barnacle?
Aye.
Cater Thompson?
Yes.
DeCarly?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Quint?
Yes.
Shribs?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Did I get a chance to weigh in there?
Sorry, McDonald.
Yes. It's team effort.
So sorry.
Okay, so then I'm looking for a motion on item 7.
I'll move item 7.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Now and a second by Quint. Roll call vote, please.
Barnacle,
Aye.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
DeCarly,
No.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Thank you very much. That moves us to our item 13, a public hearing and matter for consideration. And that's the introduction or first reading of an ordinance to change certain appropriations for the operations of the City of Petaluma from July 1, 2025 to June 30, 26, and finding this action is not a project pursuant to CEQA. So that's last year we're talking about here. We're getting to the end of this year. And to help us with this, we have Linda Lee, Deputy City Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable council members. Thank you so much for your time. Linda Lee with the Administrative Services Department. The city reviews its budget on a continual basis throughout the fiscal year. 3 budget adjustment reports are typically presented to the council on an annual basis. 1 for quarter 1, 1 at mid-year, and 1 at the final year end. The proposed year-end budget adjustment before you this evening are the final adjustment to the adopted budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. The majority of the budget adjustments presented are resulting from the approved council actions since July 1, 2025. Included in this ordinance is a required transfer from general fund restricted fund balance set aside to eliminate the long-term deficit in the Marina Fund. This deficit resulted from Marina operating costs consistently exceeding the revenues for at least the past 15 years. As an annual operating losses accumulated, the Marina Fund developed a negative fund balance of approximately $1.8 million, which has been identified as an ongoing concern by the auditors. To address this issue, the city's auditor is requiring the general fund balance to be set aside and restricted specifically for the purpose of covering the Marina Fund deficit. This transfer has no impact on the general fund's assigned or emergency reserves. Those reserves are held in separate component of fund balance and remain fully intact and unaffected by this transaction. In addition to successfully restructuring this long-term outstanding Marina loan with the state, this is part of the plan to address the future of the Marina. The detailed list of all budget adjustments is included in the staff report. It is recommended this evening that the City Council introduce the attached ordinance to amend the appropriation budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Seeing none, moving it over to public comment on the item.
We've had no public comments for item 13 ahead of the meeting. At this time, I'll set a 30-second clock. Members of the public wishing to speak should bring their speaker cards to the clerk's desk if they have not done so already. Speaker cards received after this time may not be accommodated.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone moving forward and not having any on the clerk's desk, we'll close public comment on item 13. Any last comments? I think I want to make one comment here. Just I'm very much looking forward to not having debt on the Marina, not having liability on the Marina. I mean, I recognize that not all city programs completely pay for themselves, and sometimes there's things you do as a community and they're for the community and not in balance. But taking us closer to that every day is a good thing. So I'm glad to hear that report. Thank you. Councilmember Shribs.
Just mentioning the Marina, I just want to thank staff because they stepped up on this one. They got a $8 million debt reduced down to about $4 million, so they just saved us $4 million. So that's a great savings that we did. We asked them to step up and to do it. They got it done, and it's a great savings. So thank you, staff, for making that happen.
Thank you very much. And looking forward to a motion.
Moved.
So we
Second.
have a motion by Barnacle, second by Now, and our roll call vote, please.
Barnacle,
Aye.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
DeCarly,
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Quint,
Yes.
Schritz,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Now we move to a workshop on the City of Petaluma's 2026-27 Economic Development Work Plan, including a proposed hotel incentive program. And I'd like to turn this over to Catherine DePasqua, our Economic Development Manager, and welcome to Council Presentation Times, and to your team.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members, and City Manager. My name is Catherine DePasqua, and I'm the Economic Development Manager. Joining me tonight is Nancy Sands, our Senior Economic Development Analyst, and Brian O., our Community Development Director. Tonight, we'll be discussing the city's 2026-27 Economic Development Work Plan. I'll be walking you through the economic context, what we've been hearing from stakeholders, and what we plan to focus on over the next few years. Before getting into the work plan itself, I wanted to spend a minute on why we're here today and what went into the development of this plan. Sales tax revenue came in at $15.6 million in fiscal year 24-25, which is down from a peak of $17.7 million in FY 21-22, post-COVID boom. This isn't necessarily a crisis, but it is a trend we want to get ahead of, and this work plan is one of the ways we can do that. On the job side, Petaluma is a regional employment hub with over 30,000 jobs. However, only 1 in 5 of those jobs is filled by a Petaluma resident. So there's a real opportunity to better connect our jobs here with the people who live here. We also heard 2 things really clearly during our stakeholder engagement. Permit streamlining is businesses' top priority, and the focus should be keeping and growing the businesses we have here already. Petaluma is open for business, and this work plan is how we're going to deliver on that. And last, but definitely not least, the foundation for this plan is that Petaluma has a real competitive advantage. It has a great quality of life, a central location, and a vibrant downtown. A big part of what this work plan will do is help us tell that story more proactively. And so businesses and investors know that this is a place worth, setting up a business in. So by the numbers, Petaluma is a strong community by most measures. Median household income is above both the county and state averages, and nearly 44% of residents have a bachelor's degree or higher. So we have an educated, high-income community, which is a real asset. On the flip side, the housing picture is where it starts to get a little complicated. Median home value is $849,000, and median rent is $2,380 a month. So median is the middle line, not average, so it's the point exactly in the middle, and both of those numbers are above both the county and statewide averages. What that means in practice is that a lot of people working in Petaluma can't afford to live here. Roughly 80% of workers commute in from somewhere else. And that's not something economic development can fix on its own, but it's the reality we're working within and directly affects how we're going to roll out our work plan. So it's one of my favorite charts, so this chart shows where Petaluma really stands out when compared to Sonoma County as a whole. Manufacturing is the clear standout. There's 80% more manufacturing in Petaluma than the county-wide average. That didn't happen by accident. It reflects decades of companies choosing to put their roots down here. The reason protecting this base matters so much comes down to economic output. Every manufacturing job generates $720,000 in total economic activity, compared to about $170,000 of a retail job. And that $720,000 isn't just employee wages, it's spending with local suppliers, contractors, business services, and freight companies. And a lot of that money stays right here in Petaluma. So when we lose a manufacturer, we're not just losing the jobs, we're losing that ripple effect that it generates. On the retail and food side, about 50% of our sales tax comes from those two categories. In the analysis that was done by RSG Solutions, we found that Petaluma residents are doing a lot of their shopping outside of the city. That spending and those sales tax dollars are going to neighboring jurisdictions instead of staying here. So there's a good opportunity here to be capturing more of that sales tax revenue in town, and that's part of what we're going to be working on in priority 4 of the work plan. So before getting into the work plan itself, I want to share 2 examples of what proactive economic development looks like. The first example is Diamond Quanta, which is an advanced manufacturing and technology company that was looking to expand from Mountain View into either Marin or Sonoma counties. We worked with the California Office of Business and Economic Development to get in front of them early. We organized property tours, and we pulled together a design review meeting with 7 city divisions to discuss what the permit requirements would look like before they'd even get into the formal process. So that's the kind of early coordinated engagement that this work plan is going to set up to make more formal. The second is the North Smart Station specific plan. We're doing direct outreach to businesses along the McDowell corridor right now to understand what commercial, industrial, and infrastructure needs the employers need in that area. That corridor is one of Petaluma's most important employment areas, and as the plan moves forward, we'll be working closely with planning and consultants to make sure that economic development is part of that conversation, because we really want to make sure we're striking the right balance between employment growth, which is so needed, and desperately needed housing. So this work plan has 4 priorities. First, retain and grow the businesses we already have. Second, protect and strengthen our manufacturing and food and beverage sectors, which together account for more than 20% of all of the jobs in the city. Third, make Petaluma easier to do business in by streamlining permitting and expanding our business navigator support. And fourth, activate vacant sites and build the financing frameworks we need to support that long-term development. So, and I'll walk through the key milestones for each of these priority areas, but I'll just mention that all of these areas are meant to kind of work in tandem with each other. So as one builds, each will build on itself. So it's a sequential, or it's not sequential, it's all kind of happening at the same time. So priority 1 is really the foundation of our program. We're launching a citywide business retention and expansion program with defined visit targets. So this includes all industries along all commercial corridors in the city. Every interaction will get logged into a new economic development focused customer relationship management system, which I'm going to call CRM from now on. So nothing falls through the cracks and we can track the resolution of each item. We're also building a Why Petaluma communications function to tell our story proactively to brokers, tenants, and prospective investors. Priority 2 puts dedicated outreach in place for manufacturers and food and beverage producers. The goal is to systematically surface what's getting in the way for some of them, whether it be zoning constraints, infrastructure gaps, or permit timelines. We will document it, resolve what we can internally, and use what we learn to inform policy change over time. We'll also be partnering with our community development folks on zoning code updates to help protect production uses citywide, and the phase 1 of that is targeted to come back to council in the fall. Priority 3 addresses the top ask we heard from stakeholders. We'll be working with community development to pilot a fast-track process for high-impact projects with a dedicated business navigator support. We'll also evaluate a self-certification permit program and set measurable permit review time targets by project type. CRM access will roll out to the permit counter this summer, so business inquiries are tracked from their very first contact with the city. And last but not least, priority 4 is really where the city starts to play a more active role in what gets built and where. So the most immediate work stream is the evaluation of a hotel incentive program. Hotel development drives transient occupancy tax, otherwise known as TOT. But without redevelopment tools, projects that would benefit the community often don't pencil out financially. We have 2 active hotel opportunities in Petaluma right now, a proposed downtown boutique hotel and an expansion project that was entitled a couple years ago, but didn't move forward because the financing didn't work. So these projects underscore the need for a clear, consistent policy framework. The idea of a hotel incentive program is not a new concept. Cities in California have been filling the redevelopment gap with TOT sharing programs for years. Morgan Hill, Dublin, Temecula, Palm Springs, and Anaheim have all adopted versions of this approach. The structures vary, but the principle is consistent. The city retains a baseline of TOT revenue and then shares a portion of the growth above that amount with the developer for a defined period of time post-construction. No money goes out up front, but developers can borrow against that future revenue stream to help cover their construction costs. We're proposing to retain a consultant to evaluate the financial feasibility of a program like that here in Petaluma, which would come back to the council for consideration later this summer or fall. We'll also be evaluating the feasibility of an enhanced infrastructure financing district, otherwise known as an EIFD. The basic idea is that as development happens and as property values rise, that property tax revenue also grows. And an EIFD captures that growth and sets it aside in a dedicated fund for infrastructure and economic development. It doesn't raise taxes, it redirects future tax growth towards investments that benefit the community. And finally, this fall, we'll be launching a broker and developer working group, including property owners and businesses, focused initially on vacancies in the downtown area. Groups like Petaluma Urban Chat and the Vacancy Project are already doing a lot of great work in this space, so we just want to plug into that energy and put all of their data to good use. So, how are we going to know that this plan works? We're going to be measuring the success of this work plan by tracking 4 things. Are we keeping businesses? Is permitting getting easier? Is the economy growing? And are our partners engaged? The data will be made publicly available through a new economic development dashboard that we hope to launch in the fall. We'll return to council periodically with updates since this is a living document and we expect it to evolve as conditions change. And this slide will kind of give you a sense of where we're headed over the next year or 2. This summer, we'll be hitting the ground running, launching a new business retention and expansion program, standing up a new communications function, getting the CRM live and at the permit counter, and kicking off the hotel incentive program evaluation. Fall will be our biggest delivery quarter. The public dashboard goes live. Phase 1 zoning code updates come back to council. And the broker developer working group launches with an initial focus on downtown vacancies. And we'll look into the fast track permit pilot and self-certification programs. Winter will bring the first synthesis of what we're hearing from manufacturers and the food and beverage producers, along with a review of business license fee structures. EIFD and Prop 4 feasibility will also follow in early 2027. And then in year 2, once we've kind of built the foundational systems and the support framework, we'll scale into workforce development programming and more targeted business attraction efforts. And that is the conclusion of the presentation. Brian, Nancy, and I are here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all the info, and it's super necessary. Who has a question and wants to lead off here from the dais? Councilmember Shribs.
So far, it looks like a wonderful program. We're getting started. Finally, we're getting to the economics, which is really need. Manufacturing is really need. So we're bringing in this high-tech company. We were the one of the high-tech city capitals of the world for a little while there with all the internet companies that were here at that time. But we still have a lot of them are still here. And I just visited with one just helped me out at Schollenberger Park, and they've got almost like they're working on AI center technology. They actually generate equipment for that. So lots of opportunity there. So can you tell us a little bit how you garnered this other company coming in, and how can we take our next steps to get other companies to come in? How can we do a little better job and bring them back, because we have some office space still available to fill?
So at the county, we would say through the chair. Do we say through the mayor at the city?
No, this is a direct conversation between you and who's ever asking you the question.
So the answer is yes. We'll be working with the state through the GoBiz to see if there's anybody going through them really looking for opportunities to expand. So I'll be working kind of in lockstep with the state. We'll also be coordinating with brokers and property owners to understand what inventory of available space we have. And really, it's about communicating and making sure that our value proposition is out there to know that we're here to work with you. We, can help, get you in. We can help find space. We can help you navigate through the permit system. And that is what the plan is essentially meant to do.
Yeah, and some of our larger companies, like I think it's Lagunitas, after visiting them or seeing their operations a little bit, they pretty much filled their space. So is there, as an example, can we find more space for them to expand into and grow their business? Well, what would that look like?
I think in that particular case, we would need to know more about what their operations are specifically and what they need, and then we'll find the right space for it. I think part of what the general plan and then the Petaluma North Station specific plan is really about preserving industrial use in the zoning to allow for potential expansion down the road.
Good, just to generate some ideas of what this might look like on a practical basis is what I'm going after. So when they're and so for the permit process to get things changed, is going to be a separate desk than the building department permit process, or is it going to be all electronic? What does that kind of look like on a practical basis for local businesses?
So the city already did some great work in creating the Business Navigator program. I mean, you're looking at one of the founders of it, Nancy Sands. So it's really about communicating that service is available. We have dedicated email address and a phone number for it. And the whole point of coordinating with the permit counter and them having access to the CRM is if somebody comes in through the permit counter to ask questions, we'll get notified right away that there's a business inquiry, and then we can follow up directly.
Again, just looking at the practical applications here and what that might look like. Thank you for your answers. That's all I have right now.
Thank you.
I just have to say, I did meet with the Lagunitas folks, and they told me they were meeting with you as well. And it was fun that you were already ahead in the curve like that and getting out to some of our largest, and that their concerns were updating the music venue and being able to be more of an entertainment space, not manufacturing. I think it's tough in beer right now, sales down and whatnot, and in clearing up old permits. And permits have always been a problem. So I think my question is more in the permitting side of things. I think the first step to solving a problem is admitting you have a problem, and how can you get honest feedback about permit success? A lot of businesses complain during the process, but are very unwilling to be candid with you at the end of the process. How can you coax out what you need to be better from a resistant business? How can you get good feedback?
I think that it's kind of twofold. I mean, part of it is really building the relationship as we go, and that's really just the core tenet of the Business Navigator program, is developing those relationships, making sure businesses trust us, can come to us with honest feedback, and really we can be, the internal advocates for them. So that's kind of the relationship building. It's also kind of on the data side, and community development and planning is already doing a lot of work in, documenting permit review timelines and, creating a lot of good data. So it's about leveraging the data, implementing the Business Navigator efforts, and seeing if that data shifts over time.
I'll just also add, Mayor, we've been doing monthly, so there's an opportunity for anyone seeking a permit, completing a permit, just curious about a permit to provide us anonymous feedback as they go and navigate through the permit process. So we do get pretty robust data. That's something that's shared amongst the team, and then that gets implemented and adapted. So we're always improving the process, but I do think, to Catherine's point, it's the relationship building. It's showing a proof of concept, showing that there's trust, and oftentimes there's a pretty slim pool of architects, and so that's usually that's where we're having that direct interface to help with permit success.
Thank you. Councilmember Quint.
So sticking on the permit theme, I would be interested in hearing from staff how you feel the permit process has changed, say, over the last year or two. I know that it's something that's come up, and it's something that's been worked on through the Navigator program, and there's been an effort to try to improve that process. What is, kind of in summary, what does that change look like thus far?
I would say it's overall positive. It's, as Catherine mentioned, we do track the permit timelines, and so we're always consistently, close to what we're trying to hit, which is near 100% turnaround times. That said, there's always a number of projects that seem outsized and take more time, and so those are the ones that we pull out of the system, make sure that we course correct, make sure that those get the attention so that the rest of the permits get to get reviewed. And so I'd say overall positive. Of course, as we continue to get feedback, we're always improving. There's an example of a permit that one of the council members raised last week, very visible. It's Bayless and Washington, small rehab project. Permit was issued, and the work happened literally the next day, which is really encouraging to see. And so we continue to build off of that energy and those successes, and keep with the mission, which is streamline and get people through the process as quick as we can.
Thank you. Have there been, has staff taken a look at permitting requirements to determine if there's requirements that we have today that are not necessary?
Almost too much. So part of what we're going to be looking at as part of the zoning code reform, part of the effort to self-certify. So as an example, fence permits. Our code is very clear that fences are permits that have to be approved by the director. They're relatively straightforward. Do we need people to be submitting permits to review a pretty straightforward permit? I think it's not necessary. That said, our code prescribes it, and so that's something we'll be looking at. Building code is a little less straightforward, and so when you think about tenant improvements for commercial buildings, it gets a little more complicated, but something that we'll continue to refine and try to make it as streamlined as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about things like someone trying to open a restaurant, going into a facility that was just a restaurant. And, are there things that we can do today to make it easier for that restaurant to get up and running without, burdensome permit requirements. I'm not suggesting that we open up the floodgates for unsafe restaurants, but it's already a thing that's difficult. You know, a restaurant's a really difficult business. And to me, if we can find ways to reasonably make that easier without making things unsafe for the public, I think we should, take a look at that. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit into comments, so I'll bring it back to questions. I'm curious about the CRM. It sounds like we're looking to implement a new system, and I'm curious what that, have we identified a system? How much does that cost? I saw where it would be implemented in spring of 2026, I think I read, which seems really fast for a new system, given kind of how things move through, municipalities. So just please.
Great question. We are going to be using Executive Pulse for our CRM, which is a system that was built for and by economic developers. So it is a very kind of niche CRM that's specific to tracking business retention and outreach visits, tracking economic indicator data. So I'm actually really excited to start using it. We're just started with kind of the data migration and the implementation, and we're hoping to kind of have it up and running and have trainings by the end of this month. And in terms of cost, with the implementation, the number escapes me. For year one, including year one subscription and implementation, it was less than $20,000, but ongoing costs will be just shy of $8,000 per year moving forward if we continue to use the system.
That sounds amazing. Getting up that fast and quite honestly being that cheap to me seems like a really smart investment for the city. So thank you. In your presentation, you talked about the vacancy working group, and I believe I heard mention that that's going to be focused on vacancies in the downtown. And I was wondering why the focus on just downtown. I mean, I know that that's important, but we have vacancies elsewhere as well.
Agreed wholeheartedly. The idea is, admittedly, we are really only a team of two, so we do have to kind of target our efforts. So the plan is to focus initially on downtown vacancies because that area is such a driver for sales tax revenues. But we're also going to be tracking other vacancies as well, especially when it comes to industrial uses in, say, the north end of town or off of Lakeville. So while it's not specifically called out, it is work we'll be doing for sure.
Okay, last, on the hotel incentives, one of the things that, one of the questions that I had that you answered partially was, are there other cities somewhat similar in size to Petaluma that have incentivized hotels in similar ways as to what the city is considering? Are there outcomes that we can point to predict what might happen in Petaluma? You mentioned some cities, but I'm curious if we've looked at, is there anything to tell us whether those incentives that we're considering have been successful or problematic elsewhere?
So ultimately, will it work in Petaluma and by what scale will need to be determined by kind of a third-party financial feasibility analysis that a consultant will do. So the true dollars and cents of it in terms of impact here will need to be evaluated. But anecdotally, we have seen the program be successful in other areas. One thing they tend to be is kind of targeted towards like getting high-end hotels or hotels with restaurants. So they're trying to use the program to incentivize the type of development that they're wanting to see. And when the programs are more tailored, they tend to be more successful. But again, the evaluation that we would be undertaking will help inform that too, of what have other jurisdictions done and what we should be kind of using here locally to our benefit.
Thank you. I'll save the rest for comments.
Councilmember Now.
Thank you. I thank you, Councilmember Quint, because those are a lot of my permitting questions. But one, we had a drive-through beverage company that wanted to come to Petaluma, and it didn't fit where they wanted to build. But we have another drive-in opportunity, empty location in a shopping center right down the street. Do we show that applicant another location for their business that they want to bring to Petaluma? Do we do that? You know, this one doesn't work, but maybe this one will work.
I would say absolutely. You know, when we have those conversations with prospective applicants, often if you've got an applicant who's coming in at a higher level, they're working with a broker, and so they'll give us a call, and that would be part of the conversation. And we don't allow it here for drive-through. That's kind of a tricky one. But absolutely, if there's a spot that doesn't work in one place, then we're going to be looking at other places as well.
And there's not too many drive-through locations that can be grandfathered into a new business. But this one would be a non-restaurant. I don't even know if the beverage is considered a restaurant because there's no real kitchen except for a sink, maybe a refrigeration. So it wouldn't be that hard to convert. And how we could, show them that this might be a better location and more successful for what they want. It's got a bigger footprint. It's their drive-through would be wider, and it would not be in a neighborhood, and it would be able to get out of that busy Washington Street corridor that the neighbors were concerned about for traffic backup. So that's just one of the things I'm thinking. Does the city help think outside the box? So we want you to come to Petaluma, but this location didn't work. Maybe this one will. And I did ask, going to the hotel incentive, staff to kind of give council and the mayor some input on what the current TOT is to the budget. And I forget my other question, but about the TOTs and how the hotels, also Airbnbs, what do they give back to the in TOT funds? And then the one part of your presentation that I had a question about is that we would loan them money, the hotel, during construction. So how much money do they normally borrow? That is my question.
So thank you for asking the question so that we could clarify. We will not be loaning any money, especially during construction. The TOT revenue sharing happens all post-construction, and it is would basically accumulate over time as they basically earn the TOT revenue.
Okay, because I thought I heard, and it was in the line that I forget which slide.
They could borrow against.
So the developer, once a TOT revenue agreement is executed with a local jurisdiction, and there are, once kind of a market feasibility analysis is done that kind of estimates what, say, TOT revenue will happen over the course of 10 years and what that amount is, they can take that to a lender and say, here, I've established this agreement, can I borrow against it? And that would be the path for them if they needed the funding right away.
But the city is not lending the money. Okay.
No, it is not. Thank you so much for asking.
Thank you for clarifying that. Gave me a little heartburn there.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeCarli.
Thank you for your presentation, Catherine and Nancy and Brian. I'm just wondering, in going to permits again, if we're kind of doing some self-reflection in an effort to improve our services and everything, what are some of the city's shortfalls in permitting processing permits? Because it's been mentioned, that's been kind of the reputation the city's developed. So in kind of doing some self-reflection, what are those shortfalls?
Every permit is unique, depends on the architect, depends on the scope of the project. If I really were to distill it down, it's early and often intervention, and so that's where really the business concierge program comes into play. So before someone comes in and submits a permit, the pre-consultation, hey, I'm a business, I want to expand, I want to do X, Y, Z, there's a food component. That's where our team jumps in, and oftentimes, they have an architect on board, and that is super helpful. And sometimes people they like to bring people that they have worked with. And so I can think of a handful of examples where someone from a different part of the Bay Area comes in and just not as familiar. And so I think that early intervention is really the key. And so that's something we continue to push for the brokers, for the architects, and just really build that muscle memory. And then wherever possible, flexibility. And so if, some of the stuff is very clear cut. Title 24 is a standard at the state level. It is essentially an energy audit. So anything new that you propose, does it meet this threshold? It literally has to pass a test. It's a pass-fail test. That's pretty clear. There are other things. I think about an old historic building. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to ask them to show us the diagram for all the electrical that's behind a brick wall. That wouldn't make sense. And so to the best, I'm thinking about an example, rather than have them produce a diagram, our building official went out there, marked out where all the electrical outlets were, and that was sufficient. And so that's really what we're looking for, is flexibility, early intervention, so that our businesses can be successful.
And then how many open permits are there right now that are a year old, just to kind of understand the magnitude of what's happening in town?
So the city permits thousands of permits a year.
Like for businesses? And
yeah, I don't have the number off the top of my head. We do get a pretty steady stream of new permits. So that's something that gets sent to us every time someone submits. So that's something we track. If it's a commercial tenant improvement or a prospective business, this part of the department jumps in, tracks, reaches out, does that early intervention. So I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but that's something we could easily produce in a memo.
Okay, yeah, it'd be helpful to know. And I mean, what let's see how that's this. What is the average time that for a business a permit takes from start to finish? And then with the new program and everything, what are we aiming for to reduce that time down to?
So there's 3 streams. We talked a little bit about this. It's been some time, so we definitely owe the council an update, but depending on the permit, there's a different level of expectation. Some things can happen within 24 hours, so we call those over-the-counter permits. Some things can happen within a week, but most, so I would say most fall under that category. We also have some of the more resource-intensive permits, and so our measure for that is 20 business days, and so that's what we call a standard building permit review. And so I look at that holistically, just to make sure that overall our numbers are meeting that mark. But but there's always outliers. There's always the ones that I think, edge closer to the 60 days. I think that was sort of, it really depends, right? If you get a high quality permit up front, we can get that done in one review. Some may take multiple. Those are the ones that we keep an eye on, make sure that there's nothing lost in communication. Oftentimes it just takes a phone call. We pick up the phone, have a conversation with the owner, the architect, get them right back on track. Again, there's a dashboard that we're developing, something we can follow up in a memo.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I guess maybe where it makes a bigger difference is for brand new businesses coming in, because they've made a huge investment to take that leap and start their business, buy a building, lease one, whatever the case. And so it's kind of time is of the essence to start getting a return on that and start construction or remodeling. I mean, for situations like that where you're could be, let's just say retail or restaurant, what is the average time for something like that?
Again, it depends. If there's a tailor-made, ready to go, in its prior life, it was a fully functioning restaurant. In recent memory, it shouldn't take much, right? There may be some reorganizing of seating, et cetera, updating of the kitchen facilities. Those don't take much. Oftentimes it's the bigger stuff, expansion of dining space. The occupancy is usually, that's sort of the trigger. So if there's an increase in occupancy, that sort of puts you down a different path. And so that's stuff that we're connecting with early and often. Many of our brokers know the language. They know how to navigate that for their clients. And so typically it's the older buildings that need the retrofitting, the ADA, et cetera. Those are the ones that are a little bit longer. Some of the newer stuff, Deer Creek, as an example, those are more updated. They're, typically up to code, so don't need a whole lot of intervention or review.
Mm-hmm. And then kind of jumping over to the TOT revenue sharing, sort of feels like the city is now looking at subsidizing private projects. I mean, that's what it feels like. So, I mean, is that more or less what it is?
So what I appreciate about the follow-up about the is it a loan, is it not a loan? This is really unrealized revenue. So let's use the downtown hotel project as an example. There's no TOT that's being generated. There's no sales tax currently being generated, very little property tax that is benefiting the city. I don't know if I'd look at it as a subsidy. It's more of an incentive for future revenue that we haven't realized, we may not realize, unless there's some policy intervention. And so that's what's before council, is at least to study it, get a third-party analysis. Does it make sense for the city? Does it make sense for the community of Petaluma before the council makes a decision on it?
Well, it's like, in essence, you're giving one particular sector a huge break, whereas other sectors don't. They don't get that at all. I mean, I'll just say too, like I talked about the lighting of the Chick sign. They paid almost $2,500 in permits, and that was through the generosity of people in our community donating to that because they all wanted to see that. And then the city, for taking a sign out, restoring it, putting it back in, charged them $2,500. And they're getting charged the full amount, but somebody from out of town who wants to build a hotel, we're going to give them multi-million-dollar break on something. That doesn't feel right.
So I believe actually, and I'll confirm, but we did do a permit fee reduction for the neon sign. I would also would think that there's different considerations. I think at the end of the day, we want to understand community benefit. Yes, we're supportive of all different efforts to invest in our community. Rather than compare the two, I think it's really focused on what's before us, which is a hotel incentive policy, at least to study it. Does it make sense for the city? Will it create some future revenue possibilities that we wouldn't otherwise realize potentially?
And the only other thing I would add to Brian's comments is that, why hotels? Well, it is an opportunity for growth in terms of tax generation for the city, and it is an industry that has potential for revenue that doesn't necessarily put such a high burden on city resources. So when it comes to kind of cost-benefit analysis, it makes sense on paper. So that's why we're doing kind of this evaluation. The other thing to consider is that, the city does have a history of helping development projects like this. Just before, when the redevelopment agency was in existence and the city helped with the theater district. And so we do have a history of supporting development projects that help the community grow and, build revenue. So, and that isn't just for hotels, it was for other things too.
No, thank you for that. And then my last question, I guess, about permits would be, as part of, besides streamline, if we're going to streamline them, there's a lot less time spent on them, right? Can we look at reducing permit fees to make it more affordable?
We absolutely can. Part of what we did a few years ago, we did the fee study. As we continue to expand on our effort to streamline, we'll always right-size it, right? It's not intended to make money, it's intended to be cost recovery. And so if the time it takes to review something goes down, we should absolutely be looking at the permit fees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Barnacle.
Thank you for the presentation. It was great, and it's great to see so much good work happening in your short time here. And I apologize for not getting my questions in ahead of time. I feel like a total jerk for that. So I'm just going to dive right in, though. Can you talk more about the comms strategy and what's included in the comms strategy? Some of your thoughts about that.
So we are going to be bringing on a consultant to help with some of our social media and marketing. We're going to be working with Bay Area Digital Solutions, who has a lot of experience working kind of in this space. What we heard a lot in the stakeholder engagement was that there's a desire to really highlight business success stories. And so a big component of that work effort is going out to businesses and kind of shining a light on what amazing things they're doing and kind of doing, human interest stories. So we're going to be leveraging our social media accounts to really kind of highlight what's amazing about Petaluma and all of the people who are making it work, literally. So that is the strategy. Your former economic development manager and Nancy did some great work on some materials like a business toolkit and some great branding. So we're just going to be updating it with current information, but using a lot of what's already there.
Okay, thanks. So I heard a lot about incentives. Are we exploring any sort of regulatory mechanism sticks? I know there's been some talk in the community about vacancy taxes. I particularly had an interest in a chain link fence ordinance. Just curious if we're exploring any of those tools to try and fill things.
It's a great suggestion. I think the idea of the work plan is that we want to do this evaluation first, kind of work and see what we can do using kind of the carrot approach. And then if we're not seeing any movement there, we absolutely can look into more regulatory measures.
Great answer too. And then we're about to start phase 1 of our zoning code update. I think the initial thing is small lots. We're supposed to start that, I think, this month. At the Planning Commission. Are we going to be looking at any early measures to streamline zoning or anything like the permitting process, the CUPs, things like that through the zoning code?
Yes. So part of this initial September of this year is when we're coming back with the final general plan and EIR. And so we're working towards that day to accomplish a couple things. So there's going to be a technical zoning code update. So we have a new set of land use. There's going to be new zoning designations. What level of permitted uses should fit in each of those categories. So we'll be having that initial conversation as well as accomplishing or starting the conversation around our housing element reform. And so how do we build smaller, faster, streamline on the residential side, which again coincides nicely with what we're hearing from our businesses around livability in Petaluma.
Okay. And then so a couple meetings ago, we talked about some of our sort of early forays into AI. When I look at the business permitting page, it's a lot of words and a lot to try and take in, and there's a lot of links and things like that. Have we looked into trying to build an AI layer to assist people in finding the documents that they need, business permits that are similar? Like, I feel like I should be able to say, I want to open a business like Art Play Cafe. What permits do I need? And you should literally be able to show me, here's the permits they have, and here's the forms you need, and this is how much they cost. And that seems like a very low-hanging fruit use case for AI. And just wondering if we're looking at anything like that.
We are looking citywide. Great question. At an AI policy, it's already within our work environment. So something we are embracing, wanting to not only create a policy, but find those opportunities for it to work, not just for local government, but also our community. And so I think that's a really great example of a case study of using technology to help through local government process.
Great. And then I think I'm just going to hold off. I'll just hold the rest of mine, I think, are comments. So thank you.
Thank you. We have Councilman Cater Thompson.
Yeah, I have a few questions. I just want to know if you can tell us the other revenue sources that come from hotels. And when you do the analysis, will you be looking at the original EKN and the proposed from the 6 to the 4 story, what the difference in those dollars would be with the revenues that would come in? And the other is, what are actually the downtown boundaries you're speaking of? Because when I see the downtown, I look at Washington Street and Petaluma Boulevard, and it's just not from B Street or D Street to Petaluma Boulevard or to Washington Street. It seems like it needs to extend. So what are those boundaries?
I think we also agree that when we say downtown, we mean the broader downtown, not just those couple blocks downtown. We do mean Petaluma North. In terms of hotel revenue, in addition to TOT, there's obviously a lot of sales tax that's generated, particularly if it's a hotel that has restaurants. So those would both be evaluated by the consultant. And in terms of what they will review, it is kind of going to depend on what EKN or any hotel developer wants to bring forward to that consultant.
Could we request that they bring both projects forward? Because I'd certainly like to know that analysis, and I think members of the public have made comments about the original analysis, and so I think we need to know.
It's
So-
definitely possible. I'd say I'd sort of put that back to a discussion topic for the council on what that looks like. It is quite detailed from our initial understanding. To Catherine's point, there's a lot of numbers, a lot of financial information that would go from the applicant to the consultant. And so getting that clarity, I think, would be really critical. I think typically, though, it is based on a project, I think, so that, number of rooms, how much are we charging per room, all those estimates are typically based on one hotel proposal. And then just one other thing about the revenue question, there's, to Catherine's point, there's a sales tax, there's the TOT, the hotel tax, but then also the spin-off benefits that, we all understand, right? As we visit new places, we love the restaurant that's on site, but oftentimes it's exploring the rest of the downtown, buying gifts to bring home. And so there's also another, they call it spin-off or secondary, tertiary benefits, that there is a monetary value as well.
Thank you. And I just want to go up north on McDowell. Some of the old office spaces, I thought we just approved that there could be other uses in there. Are we looking at older office spaces for housing? Because I just happened to be down in San Diego, and that's what they're doing with all their high rises. They're actually repurposing them for housing, quite a few of them. So I'm wondering if we're going to be looking at that for old office space, the north end of town.
There is a great question, council member. So that I would look at it through the lens of the general plan update. So the community and council have spent a lot of time thinking through where those opportunities would best materialize. And so there was a conversation about it's a former Basin Street property on McDowell, right behind the Applebee's. So there was conversation there that we had last with council. That's really the starting point. And so we continue to get that interest from prospective buyers, developers, on what those opportunities are. And I think the big takeaway for the general plan and for the zoning code is going to be around flexibility. And so where there's a market to take an underutilized office space, convert it into residential, I believe we are creating a process to make that easier and creating those opportunities through the general plan update.
Thank you. And just one other question. Councilmember Now always talks about the need for appliances in town, and I'm always talking about the need for a higher-end shoe store. How will you bring those types of businesses into our town?
Well, and that really goes to the RSG analysis that shows that we do have some retail leakage. So there's 100% an opportunity to leverage our vacant spaces for some targeted business attraction. So there are organizations that are specific to attracting retail groups, and there is efforts that we can do on the economic development side to bring folks into those spaces, and that'll be part of kind of a coordinated effort.
Thank you. And actually, one more comment or question. It appears down about where the auto sales are that they're selling, I think, Hyundais now instead of the Nissans. So do we expect larger revenue?
I think that's always the hope. There's usually a reason why someone sells and another reason why someone sees an opportunity. And so I think they make really nice cars, and I think perhaps it's an opportunity to increase our revenue through auto sales. And we have an open line of communication with the owner, and so there's a history there, familiarity, and so someone sees that there's a market here in Petaluma worth investing in. They're starting to put quite a bit of improvements into their site, and so we are optimistic.
Thank you. That's it for now.
Thank you. I guess I'm really excited to hear you talk this for all the beneficial reasons that you brought up, but also, you know, we do have that structural deficit from the finance side that we talk about, and so I'm thinking like this has to be the year of economic development for that purpose as well as for open for business side of it. And the second hotel you mentioned was the Sunset Line and Twine Hampton. I don't think you put a name to it in the presentation, but that's several years. Any feedback on why that hasn't gone forward yet? They got through entitlement.
It is entitled, Mayor, you're correct. It's the expansion of the existing Silk Mill. It's Hampton Inn property owned by a hotel developer based, I believe, in the South Bay. As Catherine stated during the presentation, it's a financial, right? So on top of construction cost, timing, fees, or impact fees, and then there's a cost benefit to that the economics don't work. And so currently that project does not have a building permit submittal. It has its entitlement. So there's this pipeline that we're looking at very closely, not just on the commercial side, but on the residential side. How do we get things across the finish line, Oyster Cove, et cetera? And oftentimes the connective tissue between residential and commercial is, it just doesn't pencil. And so that's what the policy is looking to explore. Is there a bigger benefit by coming up with some future revenue agreement that works for everybody?
Right, I kind of get that on the basis of if there's no revenue, if it's vacant, there's no revenue, and you know you can negotiate for 100% of it or come in with 70%, 80% for for the city's benefit, for the public's benefit of having the facility. I'm kind of supportive of the idea of getting something there. But also I note in this, there's a slide that says rents in Petaluma $2,300 a month and Sonoma County broadly $2,000 a month. But there's more growth in other parts of the county where the rent is lower. That seems discordant to me. How do we make sense of why there's no growth even if the rent is higher in Petaluma? And that could be a longer, harder, non-economic development question. But it gets back to the permitting thing. I hope it's not the fees. I hope it's not the permitting. It's those kinds of things we need to clear up. I appreciate you talked about outreach, that you've been to the chamber for a meeting and that you've done outreach already. And the goal was 40 to 50 business connections per year. And I'm thinking, that's not ambitious enough. Is that a tight number, or do we only have 40 to 50 large businesses that we need to focus?
It is a conservative number that we hope to outpace, but we're trying to set realistic, benchmarks given our current workload.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember DeCarli?
Excuse me, just one last question. The city does have I forget if it's a committee or just an ad hoc, the TOT committee. That seems like it would have been a good channel for the TOT revenue sharing to go through first. How come we haven't done that?
Councilmember, can you clarify? So you said a TOT committee?
We have a subcommittee of council members, and we could have done that, but this was coming up on our agenda, so we piggybacked on that. And council can always kick it back to the TOT subcommittee if you want.
Might be a good place to review the consultant report when it does come.
Also, Council, if I could add, to get us here for this important discussion, it's purposely the case that it's a pretty high-level discussion in terms of that program, because there's different choices that are going to be what the consultant review is going to help us dive into and what our own research is going to help us dive into. And there's some choices. Under what circumstances is it better to focus on TOT? Under what circumstances is it better to focus on things like development fees? What about the prevailing wage impacts? And I think once we have some more of that fleshed out a little bit in that analysis, I think it could be a great time to connect with the subcommittee to get some more, have more detailed discussion. I don't feel like presently we have a lot to feed them with to get some good feedback, but we will. And the other thing that's important I want to point out is that none of these programs that we're talking about are ones staff just gets to implement. They'll all have to come back as things the council will most likely legislatively have to approve. So more to come on that for sure, and that's another good way to have discussion to get it ready for council deliberation. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a beneficial thing to do. And I think we all kind of forgot about that, for a second, that subcommittee, but I think it would be helpful.
Mayor, can I just add, you had mentioned our 50 to 60 businesses that we're outreaching to. We're really hoping that council will serve as spokespeople for our, attraction and retention efforts. So we'd like to deploy
Absolutely.
you. Yeah.
Team effort.
Yep.
And we do get out of it, and hopefully we give you feedback on what we hear too. Let's take it over to public comment, and our clerk will lead us in.
Thank you. We had 12 public comments before the meeting. We had 12 public comments before the meeting that have been posted to the agenda.
Yes, please.
At this time, I will start a 30-second clock for public comment. During these 30 seconds, members of the public wishing to speak should bring their speaker cards to the clerk's desk if they have not already done so. Speaker cards received after this time may not be accommodated.
Thank you. Our first speaker is Amy Levine, and our second speaker will be Anita Pellegrini.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of Petaluma Urban Chat and the Vacancy Project. And I submitted some written comments to you all earlier today. We just wanted to touch on a couple of points. We're happy to see that there is a work plan. We're very excited that that's been put together and that we're moving forward on this initiative. And we appreciate the thought that went into this plan and that there's an intent to do things that are really feasible and practical. And that makes a lot of sense. I wanted to make some comments about sort of the big picture and what we'd kind of like to see as part of the plan and as a long-term objective, hopefully something that could be started within this time period, but also just looking to the future. And that's really to work on how the city invests in infrastructure and public spaces and environmental remediation that can help be the catalyst for development in some of our vacant areas. And I'm thinking particularly of the area around the downtown smart station, where we've had years of stagnation with investment there. And the flip side of that is really how to adjust developer impact fees when the city is also contributing. So I think that's the other thing, is that that can provide a barrier, an unintended barrier that we really need to address. And I just wanted to mention, this is not, my brilliant idea, but I mean, it's something that we've been talking about for a lot of years. And in the Station Area Master Plan from 2013, it said that building infrastructure and public amenities are important components of development. Developers and financing entities have a greater perception of certainty and city commitment when the city actually builds the infrastructure and amenities necessary for project prior to commitments on the private side. So I think if we really want to see that private investment, the city has to invest as well. I'm kind of running out of time, but I just wanted to, the other thing is I wanted to emphasize that we want to see the city be able to pay for what it's going to do. We really support some strategic planning, building a funding stack so that we know where the money's coming from and when. We're not just kind of relying on opportunistic fundraising. And the enhanced infrastructure financing district is critical, and it's critical to do that sooner rather than later so we can jump on the tax increment. And it's sort of a virtuous cycle, because as we improve our tax base, we get more money into that. And it's going to take many years for that to build up. So we need to jump on that soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita Pellegrini, to be followed by Darren Racketson.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm Anita Pellegrini, the CEO for the Petaluma Area Chamber of Commerce. And we just want to say that we are delighted and excited to see the release of this proposed economic development work plan. This work plan is an important element in the city's commitment to our business community. We applaud the efforts that are being made. This is a document that will not be just put on a shelf. It's a living document, one which we believe will put forward a really good city economic future. It moves us closer to being business friendly now. We think it's crucial to continue to build the city's reputation as a friendly place to do business. The Chamber looks forward to continuing to work with the city. We stand here willing and able to help wherever we can. Please just ask. And we are looking forward to a partnership and a future in this plan.
Thank you. Darren Racketson, to be followed by Natasha Juliana.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I want to say that I appreciated some of the grounded and practical approach that the work plan currently takes. I'll start with the things that I really liked. Two things really stood out for me: permitting, faster approvals, review time targets, concierge support. I like that we're talking about AI policy now. I like that I think another piece to add with that is show people what a completed permit looks like with kind of dummy information. It really helps people fill it out faster. And then I also like the idea of a dynamic broker who's going to put deals together. I said that it's not a new idea, but I said that a couple of years ago. It'd be great if we could just put deals together instead of changing a map and waiting for them to happen. But it's great to see that. And I think the direction that some of these things that I really like, they kind of grow resident and business prosperity directly, which does eventually lead to city revenues instead of a focus on city revenues first and hoping that leaves the city balance sheet and eventually trickles down to residents. So I like that focus to start with. That does bring me to the hotel piece. I kind of see that as a little bit of a different ball of wax. And, I have a little bit of a history of it with it being on planning and this whole question of feasibility. That's been the core debate, or at center of the debate about the hotel since we first saw the project, was the idea that it couldn't pencil and it couldn't be financed by traditional lending. At 6 stories, it wasn't feasible. Then at 4, it was. Now at 4, it isn't. I think along that way, we probably should have seen real financials from the applicant. I know that's atypical, but it's not unheard of. And they certainly skated through a lot of entitlements, leaning on that without us ever seeing their numbers. We might have seen the revenue side, and maybe with this TOT, we're going to examine the revenue side. But now that the city, and especially if we're issuing a potential agreement that will be used by a bank as kind of collateral, I would assume that we're then underwriting that if they start the deal and it falls through, we're somewhere on that bank's list of people that need to pay them. So if we're going to act as an extension of financing for this project now, with Petaluma, by issuing this theoretical revenue stream to a bank, we're becoming like a lender. We need to see their financials. We really need to verify the cost side of this. I think for no other reason than, again, the applicant has really leaned on that throughout the process. But now that we're talking about, hey, this is the piece they really need to get this done, first of all, let's make sure that's the case. We don't want to embark on a journey where we don't know that this will fill the gap, right? And also just to make sure that if we are getting involved, that, yeah, the project is feasible. You know, I've thought that throughout. If they really can't get financing without major changes, maybe we got to take a second look at the project and decide, like, is it feasible at all? Because we can, you know, not throw good money after bad. So I know it's going to be analyzed more. I would just encourage us to really ask for that. Let's see the costs. Let's see their financials. They'll need it for a building permit likely anyway. So why not get it now? Thanks.
Thank you. Natasha Juliana, to be followed by Marie McCusker.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Natasha Juliana. I am the director of Cool Petaluma, a nonprofit that does climate action through community building. I also am a downtown small business owner since 2012, so I'm well familiar with downtown and what happens down there. I also want to just ground us in reminding us that we did declare a climate emergency, and back there on the wall it says sustainability is at the center of everything. So I was happy to see that under the Economic Development Work Plan, priority number 1, retain and grow Petaluma businesses. It says connect businesses to available green business resources and sustainability programs in coordination with city partners to support Petaluma's climate goals. So that's what I'm here to talk about tonight. Increasing green business certification is listed as an action item within our blueprint for climate action. And on the city's website, under what businesses can do to take climate action, it's the first step that is listed there. Thanks to last year's city funding and a collaboration with the County of Sonoma's Energy and Sustainability Division, Cool Petaluma was able to shepherd a cohort of 16 businesses plus City Hall through the California Green Business Certification Program. And this process is not easy, and working together made all the difference for these business owners. There were only 9 existing certified green businesses in Petaluma when we started, so we almost tripled that number in one spring. It was an enormous success. At our certification celebration, Doria Estrella from the County of Sonoma came and spoke to the members and to the public, and she said, quote, "Becoming a certified green business takes dedication, action, and a willingness to go beyond business as usual. Your efforts to conserve energy and water, reduce waste, create healthier work environments, and operate more sustainably will make a meaningful impact not only for your environment, but for your employees, customers, and the future of Sonoma County." With this proven success, Cool Petaluma is ready to assist in a second cohort. We have local businesses who are interested in following this lead now that they see it can be done. And we are seeking support in this next round so that we can keep this momentum going and bolster Petaluma's reputation as a hot spot for sustainable businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Marie McCusker, to be followed by Christine White.
Good evening, Council and City Manager. Firstly, I'd like to thank Catherine and Nancy for coming to meet with me and to actually include the PDA and the visit program in as stakeholders and asking our opinions and our input for this work plan. We cover small businesses and we also work with the hotel community. So I feel that our voice is great to be included and important to be included. We represent the Petaluma Lodging Association, which is a group of 10 hoteliers in town. So I have a couple of questions around the hotel incentive side. But I also want to say congratulations and thank you to going back to basics on economic development. It's time to go back to that attraction and retention. It's important to remind our businesses that are here that they're important and invest in them, and to have you listening means the world. So I'm very grateful for that. On the TOT side, we had a huge loss in TOT because of loss of businesses in town. Our small business parks have lost a lot of businesses, and our hotels have lost a lot of their Sunday to Thursday business. So that makes a difference. And when you lose businesses that are in the business parks, that business goes away. So filling those business parks are important. Getting corporate business, manufacturing is a huge industry in this town. So if we can bring a lot of that back, I think, and our hotels can do the rest, trying to get their corporate clients back, will make a difference to your baseline of TOT. So I think they all work in synergy of making things work. I would be mindful when I'm thinking about, I did look at some of the programs that you mentioned in your work plan about other locations that have implemented the sharing program, the revenue sharing. Most of them are looking to get luxury hotels, which we don't have any, so we don't really compete very well with the rest of Sonoma County. And I know that we don't want mid-level, we want full-service hotels, which make a difference. But let's also be mindful of the hotels that have invested and been here a long time and have some fairness if they can't meet all of those requirements. So if they want to maybe expand, let's incentivize them also to change up their hotels, because one luxury hotel is not going to change the world for us. We need to encourage our local hoteliers or incentivize them also. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you. And Christina White. And
thank you very much, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for that work plan. It's nice to see a plan. As a former project manager, I like plans. With respect to the building permit process, I have experienced that as a homeowner and using your online system. So it's nice to see it's getting there, right? But from a business perspective, I asked somebody about the process for them. What was it like? And this was pre-doing the permitting. What they said was it was the inspection process that slowed them down a bit. So maybe we're talking about permits and costs and length of time for permits, but beyond just getting a permit, you have to have inspectors out. We did not have an issue with that as a homeowner, but as a business, they had a hard time with the inspector and then also communication with the inspector. So I think your liaison is probably a great thing so that they have a contact, because that was a big part of their hassle and delays. So I think that's all I have, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. Thanks.
thank you very much. With no further public wishing to speak, then I'll bring it back up to the dais, closing public comment on the item, and anyone. Let's see, let's have our city attorney weigh in for a heartbeat here.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but the city manager wanted me to clarify in response to Commissioner Recusen's comments, in case the council members have this concern too. I mentioned already that I think we have a good deal of helpful flexibility in getting the consultant analysis and then coming back to the council with specific options for how to do incentive programs. But I can't imagine a scenario in which we'd be recommending a program that shifted financing risk from a hotel developer to the city. The only kind of program, at least I can imagine right now, is one in which they build a project, it's generating fee revenue, tax revenue, and we have a program that provides for an allocation of that actual revenue from an actual project, that to get to that point under an agreement was working as incentive to get to that point. But do you see what I mean? In terms of risk allocation, that's not the city holding the bag. So the proof will be in the pudding when we come back to the council with our recommendations, but just wanted to make clear that we're not looking at, playing roulette with the public's money.
Right, I was going to ask that in the director framework, which is we're not proposing to put up money for anything, nor would we be ever contractually or incidentally liable for any bank relationship.
No, we wouldn't be surety to a private project like that.
And I know we do other things. We waive impact fee on affordable housing complex, which they get credit for, even though it's a non-cash transaction there. and they are able to bank against it. So I get what the point was staff was making, but I want to provide a surety to the public commenter that that is not at all the case. And with that, then, other thoughts from council? Councilmember Shribs?
Just one, we do want to improve on our use of technology and using the AI policies, but I did receive an email from folks, and there is a proposal that other cities in California are denying or trying to put a moratorium on AI centers being put inside their city limits. So that might be a possible topic for discussion, and is that a business that we would welcome or not, just as a thought process with our general policy that we have. Is that worthy of discussion or not? I just would bring that up as is that a business we want or not, just for future discussion, just an idea.
Yeah, I see the irony of wanting the technology and not wanting to host the technology. Yes. Councilmember Now?
Thank you. I remember the other question I had that I put in my council questions, and it was about how much revenue the yachts bring to Petaluma when they come in. We had 30 yachts come up the river and stay for 3 nights. They don't eat on their yachts. They go out into our city and dine and shop, and they like our downtown area a lot, and that is a revenue for us. And I'm like, that's even better than a hotel. It's like a floating hotel. And then I don't have to worry about parking. Anyway, thank you to Councilmember Cater Thompson, who brought up about my passion for appliances, because I cringe every time I have to leave the city limits to go buy a new appliance. And that brings us to warehouse opportunities. There's a lot of warehouse type stores that sell appliances. One is advertised constantly on TV during the Giants game, Friedman's. It's not any relation to Friedman Home Improvement. And it also had an insert ad in the Argus Courier. So, and I see their trucks in town delivering. So we need to get them here, but we need to have a space. I don't know where we would put a warehouse appliance space, but there's also warehouse stores like Costco that want to come. We also have big buildings, like there's an empty gym right outside District 3. Inside District 3, or right outside District 3 on the other side of Lakeville, is a large paint store that's empty. What we did with Kmart, helping them break it into 3 individual businesses, was wonderful. They had a few hiccups with their permitting, and if we can help the shopping center owner move a little quicker and hold their hand, dry their tears, and help them write those checks, we can get the opportunity. So I just wanted to bring that out to the public and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Quint.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say congratulations on the work plan. I think staff has done really great work with this, and I think it shows, with this and the work that the community development team has done, I see us moving in the right direction, and I appreciate that. Whenever we talk about economic development, I don't know why I feel the need to bring this up and talk about it, but I do. And that is, I think oftentimes there's a tension between, certain progressive values, whether it's climate or environment, and there's this tension between that and business. And from my perspective, I believe they go hand in hand. We all agree that we have things in our community that we want to address. We want to fix the trestle. We want to fix our roads. We want to invest in our parks. We want to invest in, in climate. And all of this stuff requires tax revenue in order for us to make our community better. And so from my perspective, I think business, economic development, deserves to be on the top shelf with some of those other big things. And so I just want to continue to, push us to go down this path. On the permits, I guess the thing that I want to say, the final thing tonight is, I appreciate the fact that we're trying to make permitting better, easier, faster, but honestly, I believe it requires some teeth, right? I think about dashboards. I build dashboards for a living. That's what I do from a transportation perspective. And what I've learned through my career and what dashboards bring, they only bring the benefit if the chief operating officer is looking at them and holding people accountable. Dashboards give you nothing without accountability. And when it comes to permitting, they can tell us timelines and all of that stuff. But honestly, if we don't have shot clocks on permits and someone holding us accountable for meeting those, I think it's going to be a constant battle. So I would really like to see us move in the direction of figuring out realistic, meaningful time limits. And whenever we exceed those time limits on a permit, that's something that's, I don't know if it's reviewed by council. Like, I would love it if someone, didn't respond to a permit request and had to come up here and explain why that didn't happen, right? I'm not going to go there, but honestly, I think it requires that kind of commitment if we want to make meaningful progress. I think, there was a bullet in the presentation that talked about streamlined permitting for key businesses, right? I forget the exact phrase, but like important businesses. So honestly, all small businesses matter, and the small businesses deserve faster permitting as well. And then lastly, on the comms, I do believe that we should lean into a business-friendly Petaluma communication. Like, I really appreciate the social media messaging that you talked about. I love that idea. But the undertone of that needs to be Petaluma loves business. And we want businesses to come to Petaluma. Like, I want it to be infectious. And, I believe that the staff report mentioned focusing on retention over recruitment. Me personally, I believe it should be retention and recruitment. Like, I think about some of the really great wins that we've had recently. All of that's come from recruitment, right? And so, that to me, that needs I feel like it needs to be a thing. And then on the comms, when I look out at our city fleet, every city vehicle says climate ready on it. Like, I would love for it to say climate ready and business friendly or something like that. And the reason why I think that's important is because what it really does is it reinforces and it builds a culture, right? And when you're talking about a city staff person that's responsible for getting something done, when they know the culture is that this community really cares about that, I kind of feel like if it's Friday afternoon at the end of their day and they've got 15 or 20 minutes that they need to, spend on this, and they're making the decision whether they stay at work and finish it or put it off until Monday, like, I want them to stay and finish it. And it's that kind of culture mentality that I think that communication helps reinforce. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Barnacle?
Yeah, I'm going to build on some of the things Frank's talked about. So I was in Denver recently, and the mayor, I'm going to tell the story until I'm blue in the face, but the mayor said, he came in and their entitlement timeline for new development was 3 years. And they did a blue ribbon study, and they said, try and trim it by 20%. And developers said, that's not good enough. We're still going to go to a different city. It's not good enough. So he said, okay, 180 days. And if we skip it, we're going to refund you your fees. And then the person who is managing the project has to come and tell me what happened. And some of the things Frank said. And since they rolled that out, there's been 2 projects, and both of them were because the developer drug their feet and didn't meet deadlines. If it's a restaurant filling a place that was a restaurant, it's a 14-day permit, same thing. Like, that feels unheard of for us to process a new restaurant permit in 14 days. But I think the point of this, I guess, is setting a big goal and then trying to achieve it, and like letting that be the thing. Not like I want to make the permit process better, but I actually want to process new restaurant permits in 14 days. Like, what the hell does it take to do that? And it's like, I don't know, but when I look at the permit thing and there's 4 different emails that someone could send, it's probably making it really clear which one of those 4 they need to contact. It's a good place to start, because I've heard other things of, I was in touch with planning, and planning didn't talk to building, and then fire marshal got involved late in the game, and it was like one horror story after another, right? And if you've heard one, you've heard them all, but they're all different, right? And so, but I think, to the culture point, it's like, we process permits in 14 days. And if you're not here, like, it will get approved. Or you're going to be the one in there talking to Peggy, and explaining what the hell happened. I think there's some of that. The other thing that he said is, every Friday, the economic development director asks all the staff the icebreaker question is, what's one risk you took on behalf of the customer this week? And that was like the icebreaker question for their weekly meeting every single Friday. And I thought that was just brilliant, because it puts the onus on the people here that, like, we encourage you to take risks to help businesses come into our community. So there's just a couple of, like, cultural things that I think could help. I think a map, I've had some, like, really exciting work going on with, like, mapping, working with some local community members through Urban Chat and whatnot. And a map of brokerage properties is probably the easiest thing we could get from pulling from all the different brokerages. A map of green businesses so that people can do this. And, like, putting that interactive map on the city's website is, to me, low-hanging fruit for, we want to be business friendly, both, helping people to find locations, but also helping people to find businesses that align with their values and things like that. So emphasizing that. I love getting rid of fence permits. That one was just a random one. So yeah, let's do it. The CRM, I have a lot of thoughts about CRM. Most people don't use them, but the people who do use them need to have sort of some of the things set on autopilot. Like, for example, tracking emails should not be something that is like extra that I have to do. It should be something that it just automatically does. Like, we use HubSpot, and I don't even realize it, but like when I go in, I'm like, oh dang, I sent a lot of emails to those people, and everybody else knows that too. And similarly, like, you want to know if I'm communicating with the general manager of Lagunitas and something like that, and you're like, oh dang, Brian's been like pulling on his own deals over here, or something like that. Like, I think that you should try and track our emails in the CRM and everybody else's too, to make sure that we can close the loop on things, because we will get our wires crossed. It's not that big of a town. So really trying to think about how you build the business process to make that like streamlined, and really easy for those of us who are not CRM tech savvy, but like, you want to know if we're saying things, because we can get over our skis. We touched on it a little bit, but I think, Dave Alden and Veronica both sent in comments that I think kind of touched on some of the same thing, is like really leaning into our identity. I appreciated the focus on manufacturing jobs and things like that. When I think of our downtown in particular, I think the creative aspect of our town, and in particular housing and vibrancy early in the morning and late at night, you know, 7 nights a week, 5 nights a week, whatever it is. Like, I just don't see how we have a thriving downtown if it closes down at 6:30 at night, 7 o'clock at night. We have to extend those business hours so that the high costs of doing business downtown actually make sense for people. Otherwise, I just don't see how we have a thriving downtown. Also, I think that businesses would be full if there was patrons for them in downtown. And so I really think as part of doing this, I hope we start to really lean into the education of the importance of housing in creating vibrancy throughout the day in our downtown. I already said my stuff about the AI and the permitting. I think it's on the comms piece. I think incorporating us into those stories. It's one thing to go out and focus on a business. It's another thing to be the mayor that's going and shaking the hand when they're opening the door and saying that. And I look at like Daniel Lurie, and I don't know if anyone follows Daniel Lurie, mayor of San Francisco, online, but he is just a wizard with his social media team and his business. They got rid of permits for outdoor dining. They were just like, here's the guidelines, and if you violate the guidelines, we're going to come tell you have to move it. But you don't have to get a permit for it because you don't need a permit for it. Like, these are smart people. They're opening a business. They don't need a permit for that. They just need to be told if they're doing something wrong. But I think focusing, like, we have a weak mayor situation up here, not like Kevin's not strong, but the form of government that we have. And what that results in is a lot less communication from us on behalf of the city. And I think in particular, when it comes to businesses and speaking to businesses and making businesses feel important, all of us up here, in particular the mayor, have a really important role to play in sort of glad handing and being a spokesperson for the city in a way that, the city manager, economic development manager, people like that just don't have that sort of cachet that our lovely mayor and council members have. And the final thing on the hotel, excited to see that come forward. I'll note we wouldn't have the whole theater square without some form of subsidy, right? Like, we put in $17 million of redevelopment funds to that. And if we looked at that as subsidy, that might still be a car lot. And so, to me, when I look at this, the value of us, rebating hotel taxes for a few years is peanuts in the long-term benefit to our city in terms of direct tax revenue, but more importantly, the benefit to the surrounding businesses. Like, I was looking at the economic analysis from the EKN Hotel, the original one, so not what it is now, but it was like $15 million in influenced economic activity per year. So if we take a bath on our tax revenues, but we're spreading $15 million around our downtown at the local businesses, well worth it, in my opinion. The other thing that I just want to draw attention to is the property taxes. We only get like 11% of property taxes, or 12%. So the property taxes in that was like $280,000. But the people who hurt most from our weak property tax bases are schools. They get like 48 or 49% of all the property taxes in our city. And when we're seeing headlines like cities laying off, or Petaluma City Schools is laying off, 40, employees, and they're facing a $6 million deficit, like, that's on us for having a weak property tax base. That's on us for having a weak commercial real estate tax base in our downtown. And right now, that hotel parcel that's sitting there is not generating $15 million a year for the surrounding businesses, and it's not generating $1 million a year is what it would have done for our schools. $1 million a year going into the school's general fund when they had a $6 million deficit. That one project would have closed 1/6 of the school deficit this year. That's teachers for our students, things like that. So I just encourage us to keep thinking about all this stuff in terms of benefits for the community, and continuing to try and message all of this stuff, because it's incredibly complex. Like, I can spew all this out. I'm not a comms professional, but like these are the messages that our community needs to understand of why this stuff's important. Because otherwise they're going to hear, we're just giving away things to developers and not like we're actually showering our downtown businesses with $15 million and we're putting $1 million a year into our school system, because that's why we care about this stuff. So anyway, that's my comments. Thank you very much for the excellent presentation.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Cater Thompson.
Also want to thank staff for a great presentation, but I also want to thank our council members for all the great comments that were made. But I just want to go back to, as a council member, I always get a call when the yachts are coming in, and I normally go down to each yacht and I talk to each person, and they really appreciate that. And they love coming to Petaluma. And so I think it's really important when you're just, walking around, ask people questions, because you'll find out a lot about your community and how many people love coming here. And so I just think we're going in the right direction. I'm looking forward to the information that's going to come back, and just thank everybody. That's it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
I'd like to sincerely thank staff for the presentation. I really feel that the economy is the center of everything in town. It affects everyone. It affects housing. It affects transit. It affects all of it, and so I appreciate staff really looking at how we can make permitting faster, how we can streamline it. I'd love to see permit fees reduced. I love the, trying to retain businesses here, help them grow, understand their needs, and also bring new business in where possible. I think that's all a great recipe for success here. And, I like seeing the emphasis on industrial and manufacturing type work. I think I've said many times, like that's critical to Petaluma. That's what built Petaluma. I think if we're supporting this economic plan, we need to be consistent when we revisit the general plan, because there were a lot of properties where land use got changed from industrial to other things. And so I think when we go back, we need to revisit that and, point out too that the general plan's fiscal impact analysis said that industrial and manufacturing are essential to our long-term financial health. So looking forward to that coming back. And then I think at the same time too, what we're talking about is really helping the businesses and not being too overbearing on them. So we need to kind of keep in mind sort of a laissez-faire approach to this and let the businesses do what they do, because they know what they need. They know how to survive. We just need to be there if they need it. And, I'd like to, and then going back over to the hotel the TOT revenue sharing with the hotel. I really think we need to see what, it doesn't pencil out means. We've been told that several times, and, we've never been given anything to substantiate that. And, so, I don't see how we can be offering them a break when they haven't given us, any sort of an idea of what that actually looks like. And they also owe us, nearly $1 million at this point in, unpaid work to the city. And so like they've got some things that they need to clean up as well. And then, to talk about TOT also, like it's based on people staying in our city. It's not based on the number of hotels that we have. And our hotels are largely, they're rarely ever at capacity. There are peak moments, certain times a year where they are, but on the whole, they're not. And so, I wonder if we're trying to do a good thing here by giving them a break and bringing more hotels in, but what we're really doing is kind of diluting, customers to other hotels and really hurting hotels in the long run here. I think that's something we need to be conscious of as we consider ideas like this. And then, and talking about the Silk Mill Hotel as well, that's another one that's, again, there's peak times, but it's rarely at capacity. And so I don't understand. I know they can do it if they want to, but they're not in a place where they need to expand. They just want to. And so why would we be giving a break to someone who doesn't need to expand, I would say, and in a historic building as well. And so, anyway, I do like this plan. I do like the direction we're going. Been saying it for a long time. Like, this was the number one thing I talked about when I campaigned. Like, we've got to improve our economy and really take care of our businesses. So I'm glad to see us taking these steps. And, I would like to see staff in the city be accountable for these improvements and sticking to it and always striving to make it better and easier for businesses to do well here.
Thank you. I did have one feedback to staff, question to staff first. When we talk about, we were asked for existing hotels elsewhere than downtown and things, expansions, they'd still be in the conversation for whatever TOT conversations we're considering, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And to Vice Mayor's comment, the financial feasibility analysis that would be done by the consultant will absolutely take into account what the market in Petaluma can sustain. So I don't want existing hotels to think that their needs and their market would be infringed upon. It's actually one of the things that the consultant would be evaluating, because that's an important go, no-go for us when we're making the decision. And just since I'm speaking, I will say in terms of the Silk Mill expansion project, in terms of need or not need, I think subjective, but what the proposal included was adding double bed rooms, which at the current point, the hotel does not have any. It's only a single king bed. So the expansion was specifically to add double bed rooms to kind of make themselves more attractive, especially for like family travelers. So,
thank you. So to get rolling here, let's see. I think we do have a lot of evidence that things don't pencil, and I think that the evidence is the continued vacancy that we don't see anything built on. We have proposals and we have things that get processed, but it just doesn't pencil, which is why we don't see growth in our city. And I do agree with one of the points that's been brought up, especially by the Vice Mayor, about permitting and by the audience about inspection, is that it's a begin-to-end situation. We have to do care and feeding from beginning of a proposal all the way to end. And I did like what Councilmember Barnacle was saying with growth. Good growth is good for people. It's what we need in the town. And I think that's a similar point to what Councilmember Quint was making about it's not city revenue, it's public revenue. It's for all the public amenities. And so I really appreciate what you've brought to us tonight. I hope we flesh it out and get it to the next stage. In the goals that the council talked about for this year, it was economic development. We were all on for economic development, and you're bringing that in, and we want to see it get to business improvement and cash for everybody, sustainability for everybody. So thanks for everybody on that, and good meeting. Appreciate the audience being here, and this meeting is now adjourned in honor of John Volpe, and I'm not saying I'm headed over there, but but congratulations.
That will be open on Thursday.
He'll be open on Thursday. Thank you. See you at the fair.